Treating a wounded enemy shouldn't trigger an alien marriage law. But Corporal Vance learned that lesson the hard way when he pulled an unconscious Valoran soldier from beneath a collapsed bunker on Keshan 4. The metallic skin of the warrior flickered bronze and silver as he worked, her breathing shallow against the dust-choked air. Blood, dark and sluggish, seeped through lacerations across her torso. One arm bent at an angle that made his medic's instincts scream. He didn't think. He just moved. Field dressing, stabilization, broad-spectrum pain meds that should work on Valoran physiology if the xenobiology briefings were worth anything. "Easy," he said, hands steady despite the artillery rumbling in the distance. "I'm a medic." "Hey, you're going to be fine." She said something in Valoran, harsh syllables that could have been gratitude or a curse, but her silver eyes tracked his every movement. He called for evacuation, got pushback about wasting resources on enemy combatants. Pushed harder. When the transport arrived, she grabbed his wrist with surprising strength. "Your face," she said in accented English. "I remember." 3 days later, the ceasefire turned permanent. Diplomatic envoys arrived with ceremony and pageantry that seemed excessive for standard negotiations. Until Elias saw her at the center of the honor guard. Empress Cather, Supreme Commander of the Valoran military, ruler of 14 star systems. The woman he'd treated like any other wounded soldier. His stomach dropped when Colonel Harrington summoned him an hour later. The colonel looked like he'd been hit by orbital bombardment and was still processing the shockwave. "You invoked the right of shield, Vance," Harrington said, pulling up files that made Elias's head spin. "When you treated her personally, spoke to her, touched her wounds, called for her evacuation, you claimed consort bond under Valoran law." Elias stared. "I'm a combat medic. I treated her like I'd treat anyone." "In their culture, royalty doesn't receive care from random soldiers. They have designated healers. Your actions constitute a shield bond declaration." Harrington's expression was grim. "You need to renounce it. Publicly." "Fine. I'll explain it was a misunderstanding." "It's not that simple. Renunciation requires you to claim your actions were politically motivated, incompetent, or deceptive." Harrington leaned forward. "To what? You'd have to tell the galaxy our medics are manipulative, incompetent, or dishonest." The words landed like a gut punch. Before Elias could respond, new orders came through. Empress Cather requested a private audience. She stood taller than he remembered. Valorans averaged a handspan more height than humans, and carried herself with authority that made the diplomatic chamber feel smaller. Her metallic skin displayed deep bronze tones he couldn't interpret. "You saved my life when you had no obligation," she said, her English flawless now. "In doing so, you invoke the right of shield. You may renounce the bond, but doing so requires public declaration that your actions were calculated, incompetent, or false. So my options are lie about who I am or accept a bond I never intended to create. There is a third option." Her metallic patterns shifted slightly. "Undergo the trials of shield. If you complete them, the bond validates. If you fail, it dissolves without renunciation. Trials designed for Valoran warriors. I'm a human medic. Yes, your chances of success are minimal." Her tone was matter-of-fact rather than cruel. "But honorable failure preserves dignity for both our peoples." Elias recognized the trap for what it was, a cultural collision that had transformed routine medical care into a sacred ritual, generating a legal crisis neither government could ignore. One species' basic decency had become another's binding covenant. He thought of every wounded soldier he'd ever treated. The fundamental obligation to preserve life where possible, regardless of flags or factions. If he renounced that principle now, claimed incompetence or deception to escape political inconvenience, what did that say about everything he'd sworn to uphold? The answer came easier than it should have. "I'll attempt your trial," he said, "not because I think I can pass, because I won't lie about why I helped someone who needed help." Empress Cather's metallic patterns settled into warm bronze tones that looked almost like respect. "We begin preparation tomorrow." The training grounds were designed for Valoran warriors who'd spent years preparing for trials. Elias had weeks to master what should take a lifetime. He fought through defensive scenarios until exhaustion became his default state. By translating triage thinking into threat assessment. Prioritize, allocate, survive. His human endurance outlasted Valorant burst strength in extended engagements. His medical knowledge revealed vulnerabilities pure combat training would miss. You're improving faster than anticipated, Cather admitted during a rare break, her metallic patterns flickering contemplative colors. You treat this like saving a patient's life. Complete focus. No wasted energy. That's the only way I know how to approach high-stakes situations. Then perhaps shield bond trials are not so different from battlefield medicine. The combat prowess trial came fast. Elias faced 3 Valorant champions in the grand arena before thousands of spectators, mixed crowds of curious Valorants and resigned human diplomats. He couldn't match their strength, but he could evade, redirect, maintain defensive perimeter through sheer stubborn endurance. He lost every direct engagement, passed every scenario. The tactical acuity trial followed 3 days later. Complex security scenarios designed to test threat assessment and strategic thinking. Elias approached each one methodically, identifying vulnerabilities warriors would miss, biological weaknesses, staged medical emergencies, poison vectors that required understanding physiology alongside tactics. Passage. Unconventional but effective. The loyalty trial was 12 hours of interrogation by Valorant intelligence specialists trained to extract truth from resistant subjects. They found no deception because there was none to find. Every answer was straightforward. Every motivation transparent. You genuinely just helped because someone was wounded, the senior interrogator said, metallic patterns neutral gray. Yes, that's either remarkably stupid or remarkably principled. Can it be both? Passage. 3 trials down, but intelligence intercepted communications before the final trial could begin. The conspiracy had been coordinating across species lines, Valorant traditionalists and human supremacists working together to eliminate both the medic threatening their power structures and the Empress pushing for cooperation. During the sacrifice trial, weapon systems would malfunction. Both targets would die. The assassination would be blamed on safety failures. Cather's response was immediate. We're conducting the trial now, not as simulation, as a live combat against actual threats. That's insane. Yes, but we're out of time for sane options. Her metallic patterns blazed dark crimson. If you can protect me through real combat, you'll have passed more conclusively than any controlled scenario could demonstrate. Within hours, arrests triggered the coup early. Valorant military units launched coordinated attacks on royal facilities. Human supremacist forces struck diplomatic compounds simultaneously. The carefully planned sacrifice trial dissolved into actual warfare. Elias fought beside Cather through facilities under siege, providing defensive support while she eliminated primary threats with devastating efficiency. He covered vulnerable angles. Warned of dangers, her combat focus caused her to miss. Treated injuries in the middle of firefights, keeping them both functional when pure combatants would have fallen. They were 3 levels deep when Elias saw it. Sniper position, elevated angle, targeting Cather while she engaged ground forces. The shot would be fatal. Precise targeting of vulnerable points in Valorant physiology that his medical training had taught him to recognize. He moved without thinking. The shot hit him in the shoulder, agonizing impact that spun him sideways and dropped him hard. His medical training cataloged the injury automatically. Through and through. Missed major arteries. Painful but survivable. Cather eliminated the sniper 3 seconds later with precision that suggested profound fury. Then she was beside him, metallic patterns cycling through colors he'd never seen. Complex combinations of emotions fighting for dominance. You took that shot for me. You were exposed. I had better angle to intercept. His voice was tight with pain. Also, I'm the medic. Can't treat myself if you're dead. Her metallic patterns flickered toward colors that looked like affection or profound respect. You just completed the sacrifice trial. Taking injury meant for me. Prioritizing my survival over your own safety. Great. Can we celebrate after we're not being shot at? Loyal forces arrived within minutes. Human and Valorant units committed to peace negotiations. The coup collapsed under combined response, conspirators captured or neutralized. The sacrifice trial had become real because external antagonists forced it, making Elias's victory feel earned rather than handed to him by sympathetic judges. 6 months later, Elias had settled into his new reality with pragmatic acceptance. How he coordinated emergency medical protocols between human and Valoran forces, attended diplomatic functions as shield consort. The relationship with Cather evolved into genuine partnership, not romantic in traditional human sense, but functional and built on mutual respect. News arrived during one reception. Formal peace treaty signed on Kashan 4. The war that had brought them together was officially ending, partly because the coup attempt had demonstrated that continued conflict served conspirators more than either species' genuine interests. "Do you regret it?" Elias asked. "That day I found you in the rubble?" Cather's metallic patterns shifted through contemplative colors. "I regret being caught in artillery bombardment. I don't regret that you found me. We and your choice to help demonstrated values both our peoples claim but don't always practice." She paused, patterns shifting to warm bronze. "Your medical protocols have saved thousands of lives. That alone justifies everything. I'm just doing my job. You consistently reduce significant impact to simple duty. It remains remarkable." Outside, ships from both species moved through coordinated patrols, joint operations that would have been impossible before one combat medic treated wounded without checking faction affiliation first. Not perfect, not without tension, but better. And Elias Vance, who'd become shield consort to the galaxy's most feared warrior through the simple act of caring for wounded, continued doing what he'd always done, keeping people alive and trying to make situations better rather than worse. Yeah, some partnerships you couldn't plan for, but with shared values and commitment to genuine cooperation, you could build something meaningful. Even if it started in a collapsed bunker on a miserable battlefield, treating injuries without knowing who you were helping. Especially then,